But that, you know, I think peaceful demonstrations was the way to go. Seder, you know. Oh, here we're up to Seder. I'm here every day. Why afternoon Seder? It's to see the spiritual needs of your youth. Everybody, you go ahead, whoever. We'll talk about it for years. You want to get more in depth.
George mentioned the Air Force.
I don't know. Good job.
Good pay, good
Big question gets a big answer. You're welcome.
I mentioned at Child Shudder this week when I spoke in the yeshiva that while I was speaking in my Jewish thought class about Gilgulim and Dibukim and stuff like that. And this is very much appropriate to our discussion because in the 16th and 17th century, these types of things, Gilgulim, Dibukim, Iburim, all these kinds of things become very involved in, Jews become very heavily involved in them. What happened was that the Arizal introduced on a widespread, open scale, there were references before the Arizal, but on a widespread, open scale, the Arizal introduced the concept of Gilgulim to the greater public. And then, obviously, people came along and either used that concept or abused that concept. As I forget who Shabtai says he was a Gilgulim, but he came along and he said that he was a reincarnation of somebody from a previous generation. I don't remember who. Maybe Yaakov Avinu. So in any event, this is something which became very much part of Judaism. And it's a fascinating thing because Rav Tzadiko, one of the great Gaonim, says that Gilgul is a foreign concept. It doesn't exist in Judaism. It's a Hindu, Buddhist concept, nothing to do with Judaism. And yet you come to the Mekubalim, and left and right you have discussions of who's the Gilgul of who, what was Megal and what, and of course you have not just Gilgulim in other human beings, but Gilgulim in all sorts of other creatures as well. So, you know, it's hard to determine who's right in something like this because we don't know. But the odds are that those who say that there are Gilgulim are right simply because there's so many of them. In other words, if the Gra and the Baal Shem Tov and all those other people can say that, who said that there are Gilgulim and they were holy kind of people, so then it's very difficult for us to come and say that it didn't exist just because if you go back to the period of Rishonim, you find Rishonim who deny the concept. You have two options, of course. One is to say that the Rishonim were wrong, and that these Rishonim did not have access to the secrets of Kabbalah, and therefore they wrote these things. The other possibility is to say that, which I like better, but which is harder to say, is to say that until the Zohar became revealed and the concept of Gilgulim became widespread, there weren't any Gilgulim, or there were very few, and therefore the Rambam or Tzaddik or whoever else doesn't accept the concept of Gilgul, was not able to detect any in existence. Later on, when the Mekubalim released this actually became a functional thing which actually takes place. Now, it's hard to say that because there were Gilgulim obviously from earlier generations which existed, as we'll go through presently, but I don't think there is a theory there. There is a method to this madness, which is to say that the concept of Gilgul means it basically comes in order to make sure that a person was misaken his neshama, and that neshama has achieved its mission in the world, and if at first you don't succeed, try again. Now, fulfilling mission will be positive or negative. I'll speak about it in a moment. You have to realize your mission in the world. But in the earlier generations, then, we could say that people usually realize their potential during their lifetime. As time went by, people became more and more stupid, more and more, easily distracted, more and more lazy. So people were not able to fulfill as readily the missions which they were supposed to fulfill. And therefore, many people would have to come back down again in order to achieve what they hadn't achieved the first time around. Now, so I'll go here a little bit through these points here. These points here I wrote down. The article I did not write. I just printed off the internet. But these points I wrote down, and I'm going to go through them one by one. The Neshama Kabbalah has 5 parts. But for our purposes, we're just going to concern ourselves with the bottom 3. The Nefesh is the part of the Neshama which animates the physical body. The Neshama is the part of the Neshama which connects it to the higher realms of Kedusha, and ultimately to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The Ruach, which means spirit, is you. And that means your conscious state of mind is your Ruach. And it has to do with your power to speak, right? Ruach is the wind, not just the spirit per se, but the wind which comes in and out of your mouth, and that wind is what creates your power to speak. So animals do not have only have a nefesh. They don't have a ruach, and they certainly don't have a neshama. But human beings have this ruach, and the question is, where is this ruach going to take them? In other words, what we would say in modern English, quite literally, is spirituality. There's a concept of spirituality. That is what the Spirit develops, a certain form of spirituality. So how is the spirituality going to play itself out? Is it going to be brought down by the nefesh or brought up by the neshama? Meaning, I can have a spirituality which is very, very tameh, right? Which is very pleasure-seeking, which is very idolatrous, which is basically the general spirituality that people speak today is a sense of spirituality which is not rooted in God or godliness, but that spirituality which has to do with feeling alive, feeling a spirit. That's a lower form of spirituality. The higher form of spirituality, of course, is that one experiences a spirituality, a connection, a ruach, which comes from Hashem. So a person is entire life is going up, down, being pulled this way, being pulled that way, by the various different places towards which his ruach can go. Now, ultimately, the tikkun that everybody's going to make in this world, by tikkun I mean fixing the world. We say, how do you fix the world? To fix the world, we say in Aleinu, you fix the world with the kingship of Hashem. So how do you fix it with the kingship of Hashem? There are 2 ways. One way you can do it is by being a part of the solution. Part of the solution means that you help Hashem fix the creation by being a good boy, doing good things, being a Baal Chesed, being Mekadesh Shem Shamayim, right? And that was sanctifying God's name. But that brings about the rectification of the creation in a positive manner, right? And you did it positively. And the negative manner is, and by the way, this goes not just during your lifetime, but also after a person's death, because the reward which a person receives for having done good is also part of the revelation of the goodness of Hashem. It might not be revealed in the here and now, in real time, but eventually when the totality of creation, both physical and spiritual, will be revealed, so retroactively that reward will be revealed as well. That a person now, on the other hand, can reveal, if a person's a bad person, he can also reveal God's kingship. How's that? By being punished, by suffering, by not being, by always having rotten luck, all right? By being hated by others, by being condemned by history, by suffering after his death. So the amount, let's say you're here to achieve 500 pounds of tikkun, right? So you can either achieve 500 pounds of tikkun in a positive way. You can achieve those 500 pounds of tikkun in a positive way, you can achieve those 500 pounds of tikkun in a negative way, or you can accomplish 250, or any other combination. But all that tikkun which you have to make is going to be safe place. That is your potential, and it's going to be realized no matter what. That's clear so far?
How do you get a negative tikkun?
By being punished for being
something you have to fix.
What? No, because then it's Kiddush Hashem and you're getting punished. If you suffer, that's a Kiddush Hashem. If you're a bad person and you suffer, that's a Kiddush Hashem.
If you're a good person, you're not necessarily Kiddush
It may or may not be a Kiddush Hashem. If you're Makabel the right way, you're doing Shalabo, then it will be a Kiddush Hashem. Yeah.
So, also by no matter what, you will lead to the maximization of the potential punishment?
What?
Like, what defines is it up to you to maximize your potential, or is it also criminal towards it?
It's up to you.
But you
It's up to
said
you.
no matter what, you'll maximize it. What if,
Realize it.
realize?
Realize, not maximize.
Realize what?
Potential.
How you know?
Oh, that's the axiom behind it. That's the law behind the system. That everybody's got to do what they're supposed to do in this world.
Well, how do they know what they're supposed to do?
You don't. That's part of the game.
So you don't realize.
We gotta figure it out.
You don't not realize. I don't mean the word realize means you know it. Realize means bring into practice. Make it real. Not. I'm using realize in a different sense. Not that you know it, but that you make your potential real in this world. You understand what I'm saying? That was point number 4, up to point number 5. Neshamas interact across time and space. A righteous act makes it easier for other people to make good choices. A sinful act makes it more difficult. This is Chazal. It says that a tzaddik is zeiche, and he gets his portion in this world, his portion world to come, and the Russia's portion world to come, because the Russia loses it. Conversely, a Russia is punished, and he gets his portion in Gehinnom, and the tzaddik's portion in Gehinnom as well. So the question is, obviously, that doesn't seem to be fair, right? Okay, so I was good, but you're not giving me somebody else's reward? Or okay, I was bad, but you're going to punish me for somebody else? So Rav Dessler, listen to most of this, the first part of this thing from Rav Dessler. Rav Dessler says that if I am a righteous person, so that should make it easier for you to be righteous. So you will get less reward for you being righteous, and I will get some reward for you being righteous. Why? Because I made the world a holier place, and that impacted upon you. Later, we saw Salanti used to say that if a Jew learns Hilchos Shabbos better in Kovna, another Jew is going to keep Shabbos better in Paris, because there's a cosmic holiness which transcends space and even time. So if I make, on the other hand, if I make the world a holier place and you sin, your sin is much worse. Why? Because it was easier for you to avoid sin because it was a holier place, and you sinned anyway. That's the worst sin. The opposite. If I sin and you do good, then you're much better off. Why? Because you were able to do good even in a world of evil, which is a much greater thing.
So then let's balance stuff out then?
Sorry?
Does everyone sin and not everyone, most people sin and, there's sin and there's good, so doesn't it balance stuff out?
Everything balances itself out, but it balances itself in a way that I might actually get schar from you, because I made you do a mitzvah, right? Or I may get schar from you because you made it harder for me to do a mitzvah. You see how schar and close go?
Which came first?
What? That's what I did.
If I sin and you do good, is it I made it harder for you to do good, or you made it easier for me to sin?
No, I made it, who advanced chronologically, which came first.
Uh-huh.
So if you first sinned, and then I did good, my mitzvah is better. That's why our mitzvahs nowadays, even though they're very small mitzvahs, because we're all jerks, but they're very significant. They're very significant because it's much harder to do a mitzvah nowadays, right? It's much harder because, and it's our averos, even though some of them are quite bad, are not as bad because it's very hard to avoid averos nowadays, right? So that's why our generation, as low as it has certain relative advantages because of the situation in which we find ourselves. Okay? What? Because there's there isn't any apparent, immediate kedusha impact which you can feel.
Okay, but from a logistical standpoint...
Not logistically, I'm not talking about logistically, I'm talking about spiritually. Everything here is spiritual.
Okay.
Right, logistically it might be easier to do mitzvahs today than ever before, true. Right? But we're talking about spiritually. Who said it? Yeah?
How could Soros be a negative thing if, the Gemara says it's very positive every time someone gets, something bad happens to them. The Gemara says,
Depends how he accepts it.
So let's say first he doesn't accept it, well, then he accepts it.
That's tshuva.
Oh, okay. And also with balancing it out, you said with a mitzvah, so I do a mitzvah and I do an avera, but the avera doesn't balance out the mitzvah, right? I could, for example.
No, but you'll get more punished for that avera you did.
Why?
Because when you did the mitzvah, you made yourself holier, and it should have been harder for you to sin. If you sinned anyway, then it was a more greater sin. So that follows in a certain way. You're laughing, right? But it's,
better off I have.
Yeah, could be. How to that? Aha. I'll tell you that.
Not too late now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Alright, so let me get this straight. Nowadays, if we do a mitzvah, it's on a greater level, and if we do an avera, it's not as harsh. So even if we do an avera after a lot of Torah learning, how does that make the avera more severe?
Because then you
I
have,
understand that it makes you holier.
and therefore the sin, it should have been harder for you to sin. If you sinned anyway, then you're more punished more.
Even though we live in a time where...
Yes. But everything is relative, or there are many factors which go into these reckonings. The classic example from which this is all learned, Rabbi Sosa says this. The Gemara says that you get punished. You have tzitzis in the days when, and you have tchelis, right? In the days when there was tchelis, today according to those who hold there is tchelis. So let's say you didn't put on white strings and you didn't put on tchelis strings. You didn't put on any strings whatsoever on your garment. For what do you get punished more? So Rabbi Sosa says, why?
What do you mean? What's the scenario?
You don't put any tzitzis, not the white, not the blue. For what do you get punished more?
You're wearing a four-corner again.
Yeah.
Between what? You're saying you don't put any strings in your tzitzis, and...
You could have put white. You should have put 2 white and 2 blue, let's say.
Oh, you didn't put the hair.
Didn't put anything.
Oh, okay, that's...
So the Gemara says, Kasha onsho shalov and yotzim onsho shabchelis. The fact you didn't put white strings is worse, because white strings are easier to get. Since they're easier to get, you're punished more for not having done them. Right? So therefore, everything is in proportion to how easy it was to do something or how difficult it was to do something. So if I learned a lot of Torah, it should be more difficult for me to do an Avera. If I go and overcome that obstacle, do the Avera anyway, wow, Mesiras Nefesh for that Avera, I get punished even more for that. Now, again, it's not like it was in previous generations, because our entire environment is much more tummy than theirs was. But everything is relative within the relativity. Yeah.
Is that how it works, that every action of a Jew impacts somehow another Jew in the other part of the world? So, for example, if someone does a huge mitzvah, it might make a ball tshuva the other side of the world.
Yes, it might. The thing is, like, I want to reiterate what we call an MCA, or I call an MCA, the moron factor, which is, since we are all morons nowadays, so therefore the cosmic impact of our deeds is relatively small. So it's difficult to imagine a scenario in which any of us, would do a mitzvah which would bring about massive tshuva in Nigeria. But who knows? Maybe.
But it say all Jews,
What?
their job. Like, I know some people say if all Jews did their job, the whales would stop dying. Yeah, is that?
That's a Hasidic notion. Yes, that all not just other Jews. It's a Hasidic notion which is backed by Kabbalistic sources. Not just all Jews, but all creatures, all creation is linked to the Jews' mitzvahs and averos.
No, I don't understand something about your comments about how, we're so dumb today. I've agreed with this concept, so I'm thinking about it, and how do we really compare? You could look at the Rambam and you could see a great work. Okay, fine, that's great. You see, he's obviously in a league of his own. You look at Rashi, you could make these judgments because you haven't done anything like that. But these are exceptional people of the time who we have their work. Maybe as a whole today, that there are more people, there may be one great person there, but you may have 10 people who are at a step below that. I'm not saying that we're a step below Rambam, anything like that, but I'm saying you may have a greater mass of people who are more educated, and that may have more suits than one person.
Maybe, but that's quantity, not quality.
Right.
So if you have 500 computers linked together, they might achieve more computing power than one supercomputer.
Right.
Right? But each of those computers is a nitwit. So 500 nitwits equals,
And here's my other question. You probably laughed this off, but how is, for instance, if you look at, let's take like, this is talking
Look at
about
all of your
Tiferes Yisrael.
hands. So come
Take,
up only with your arm.
take the Tiferes Yisrael.
Yeah.
Okay, you could read his work, and you have been taught that you have to have a certain amount of kavod for him, and you could read his work and see the intellectual greatness of what he's done as well. But you really don't know. I mean, if he was around today, you may be able to, and you were learning with him, you may be on the same level as him. But we've understood, we have a certain understanding of what Masorah is, and because we have this respect that we've been born into and that we've learned, that you have to have respect for Masorah, and the people that came before you are greater, that's not necessarily so, though. I mean, where do we come up with that? I mean,
You know, Norman Lamb says like you. You know Norman Lamb is?
yeah.
Yeah. So he said,
Yeah.
who says that we're any smaller than previous generations? It's absurd. You open up a Chazon-Ish, right? You open up a Sefer Chazon-Ish who lived in the 1950s. You open up Or Sameach, right, which was written in the 1910s, right? You see that their level of learning is so you can't see that if you only learn in English or if you're handicapped in Hebrew so much, because
Right.
the translated texts are usually, the simple texts from any time.
Right.
But if you look at what people were writing and doing in previous generations in Hebrew, it's extremely depressing. It's extremely, extremely depressing. And there's no way anybody can say that there's no way anybody today could produce something like the Chazon Ish. There's no way anybody today could produce something like Mishnah Berurah. It's evident.
Yeah, but then you have a guy, a rabbi like the Rogatchover. The Rogatchover comes along, and he, clearly is a step from, he's from a different place.
Right. There are people like
So there
that.
are people like that today, though. No one's like that today.
No.
Even the biggest.
No. No. Maybe there is something I don't know about, but the ones I know about, no. Yeah.
Right, so everyone talks about the decline through the generations, but the Shvatim try to kill Joseph. I've never done anything like try to kill my brother. What's the decline? Like today,
They great people have capable of great sins.
I try to kill my
The greater person is, the greater is the Yetzer Hara. Now it happens to be that the brothers, Chazal also give another approach, which is to say, they had a cheshbon, halachic rationale to kill him. But even without that halachic rationale issue, there also is the fact that great people are capable of great sins.
So you see these people serving life in jail, and you think, wow, if they would have taken it in a different direction, they would have been capable of very great things.
Absolutely.
Some people who are very evil are geniuses and just use it for evil.
Yeah. Al Capone could have been the Gras Capone.
Number one,
Wrestling rabbi.
you said this before about a mitzvah. The harder it is of a mitzvah, right? Let's say the fact that you're commanded, that's what makes the mitzvah hard.
The fact that your command makes the mitzvah harder than if you're volunteering to do it.
Right.
Right.
But you didn't say anything the opposite before. Before you said something contradicting a little bit.
I don't remember what I said, which contradicted that.
Okay, so never mind.
Okay.
Another thing that you said, if a person with the person who's greater, the question I have is that someone who's great, like Avraham Avinu, Moshe Rabbeinu, or any of the others, you can't say that they sinned. Like Shimon and Levi, who came into the town and wiped out the city, that was not a sin, because the Chazal say that you can't say that what the Tzaddikim say was a sin. Is that?
No, what you can't say is that they sinned kipshuto. That was that they were just coarse people, and who were basically, just like us, and their sins are just like our sins.
Oh.
But they did sin. If Tanakh tells us they sinned,
Oh.
So it means they sinned. Is the sin like our sin? No, it's a different kind of sin because they're functioning at a different level.
So you could say David and Bathsheba was you could say that was open sin, like.
Yes, the sin was a sin. Just look, Chazal say it wasn't the sin which you think it was. It was a different sin, but not the sin of Eish Ish.
So Shimon and Levi can't say that. Oh, they just want the same sin like as us.
Right.
Totally different.
Right. Okay. Okay. So.
Do many Meforshim say that we're getting weaker? Is it clearly see the generations getting weaker?
What do you mean Meforshim? Rishonim?
Yeah.
No, the Gemara says it. The Gemara says that Amoraim say we're relative to Tanoim. They say if the Rishonim were like Malachim, meaning the Tanoim, then we are like human beings. And if the Rishonim are like human beings, we're like donkeys. So there is reference. Do they say it always has to be like that? No. But it's taken as more or less a true principle. We're up to point number 6. After death, luchos go up or stay static depending on the station they achieved during their life. That's an important point, which is that after death, things don't change necessarily that much. Because your neshama is your neshama. And neshama bereft of a body is still that neshama. So if during your lifetime, you had a tremendous spirituality. I'm going to use relatively innocuous examples, but you'll get the point. You got tremendous spirituality out of eating cheeseburgers, right? So that was a really transcendent spiritual experience for you. So then after you die, you still want to eat cheeseburgers because that's how you get transcendent spiritual experience. Problem is that you can't eat cheeseburgers anymore. So the neshama is in a bit of a quandary, trying to figure out how to deal with this. It doesn't necessarily right away resolve itself. So it can take time for the neshama to realize that actually you can't eat cheeseburgers anymore. And during this time, a person can either be in limbo, or a person could be pursuing one of those punishments which precede Gehinnom.
Everyone also means
What?
There are punishments that precede Gehinnom?
Yeah. Oh, you think any Russia can get into Gehinnom? It has to be a tzaddik to get into Gehinnom. It's not so simple.
What does that mean?
I'll explain. Yeah.
It's 11 months.
No. That's what they tell people to make them feel good. Right? It's only a maximum 11 months.
Is there a source for it? Or
You might not even gotten there after 11 months.
Oh my
What?
God. It's not 11 months?
First of all, it could be years and years and years.
Gehinnom?
Yeah.
I heard it's 11 months. How?
what's the source? How does it say then? What's the source
Well,
for it? Is there a source or be like?
it says, Mishpatim shall show him that Gehinnom is your base Kodesh. But that's just an average Russia. Then about Acher, he was a Gehinnom for a couple hundred years.
Well, not as bad.
But he was Acher.
But if you're a regular person, you're like...
If you're a regular singer.
Yeah, you're running the building.
One of the average ones.
Oh, how long we're going to be out?
Okay.
some people are cut off completely. What? Why did you cut off completely?
There's no such thing as cut off completely.
Not. Even the
It
biggest
means that part of their neshama is lost.
I don't know what that means. Like
I will explain it.
I really want to know.
You could lose your neshama. How does that? How do you lose your neshama?
I'll explain that.
Put it down somewhere you walk away.
First of all, I want to go a little bit in order here. There's a Gemara, for example, in Brachos. The Gemara says that there were two spirits. There was a certain pious person who one Rosh Hashanah he got into a fight with his wife, and he had to go sleep in the cemetery. Okay? Sorry? Yeah. So while he was sleeping in the cemetery Rosh Hashanah, he heard two spirits of two departed women talking to each other. And one said to the other, let's go hear what's being said in Shamayim now, the decrees for the coming year. And the other said, no, you go. I'm embarrassed to go because my mother had no money to bury me. She only buried me in a mat of leaves. I'm not dressed properly. You go and you let me know what's going on. So she goes to the other spirit, goes up to heaven, comes back down, and tells her friend, well, what they're doing, the decree for next year is that people who plan in this way will succeed, people who plan this way will fail, etc., So this pious person does everything according to the plan, which he heard, Nobody else knows of the plan, so everybody else's crops fail, and he succeeds. The next year, he deliberately goes to sleep in the cemetery. So so again, they have the same conversations, these two spirits, and the spirit who's buried in the reed says, the man says, you know what, this year we can't do this anymore because last year what we said was overheard by living people. So the obvious questions are two. A, what do they care what's going to happen next year in this world? In terms of the physical, material aspects of crops, etc. B, what does the spirit care that she's not made up properly? She's a spirit. Who cares? What does it matter what she's buried in? So the answer is that people obviously can retain an interest after they died in the same as they retained interest in while they were alive. While they were alive, they might have been meaningless, and now they're even more meaningless, but that's what the neshama got involved in. It takes the time for the neshama to lose that sense of involvement. Those neshamas, they remain down. They can fly up even, but they remain down. There's another Gemara like that in Chagiga. Gemara Chagiga says, it's a fascinating Gemara. Gemara says that the Malach HaModes, I just taught this today in my Jewish Torah class. The Malach HaModes sent one of his messengers, one of his angels, to go kill a certain Miriam. And the angel got mixed up and he killed another Miriam. Okay? So he comes back to the Malach HaModes. The Malach HaModes says, what's going on? You killed the wrong woman. So he says, oh, I'm sorry, should I go put her back? So the Malach HaModes said, no, once she's here, she'll count towards the quota. So then the Gemara says, Rabbi Abaye, who's hearing this from the Malach HaModes, said, you can do this? You can make a mistake, you don't have to fix it? He said, yeah, sure. They brought him a pasuk that says, if you make a mistake and not fix it. So he asked, what happens to these neshamas? Because they died early, prematurely. There were more years allocated to them. So the Malach HaModes says, well, they roam around the earth, or according to Pashut China, where they fly around with me, until the time they were supposed to die comes, and then I give them over to Duma. Duma is the angel in charge of dead people. So I guess he sorts them out, and tells them where to go. So then the Gemara says, so what happened to all those missing years? Because, okay, the spirit didn't go anywhere, but somebody should have lived with those years. So the Gemara says, they give those years to young Talmid Chacham, who's a easygoing, kind person. And so that those years which he uses of this person will actually be a schus for that person. Okay? The schus for that person, because the years which she lost will be going to a good cause. And therefore, retroactively, that will be for her benefit. So here also you see that there's a time period. Somebody, Rahman al dies before their allotted time when they're just floating around. Right? They're not quite alive and not quite dead. They're somewhere in the middle. So that actually is, these are the neshamas which are not yet worthy of Gehinnom or Gan Eden. Now, if they're particularly bad, then you don't just stay in limbo. There are all sorts of nasty punishments which we have for you. One of them is called the kafakel, the catapult, and this is where you are catapulted either yourself or by the little, the bad angels you created, who try to persecute you a great deal. Now, the bad angels you created, they're called Malachi Chavala, damaging angels. They, in fact, your Averis. Your Averis are angels. They're spiritual forces. Just in this world, those spiritual forces don't impact upon you as much because you're a physical person. But in the spiritual realm, they impact upon you a great deal. They're pursuing you with their little pitchforks, right? And they are actually causing you great spiritual anguish and harm. So what you try and do to get out of that, you can try and do several things. Because you can't get into Gehinnom yet. You're not worthy. Gehinnom means you have a sense of true shame, remorse, embarrassment, degradation. But you're not there yet, right? You're still more or less attached to this world. You don't yet see that this is something which, or you don't yet, actually, you can see it, but you don't really feel it, that this is something which was sinful and wrong. So what happens is, you can become a dibuk. What is a dibuk? A dibuk is a neshama which finds a way to get into somebody else's soul, or I should say a ruach, but in any event, the neshama which finds a way to get into somebody else's body. And this is great benefits for the Dibbuk because right. That's the movie I'm showing you. This has great benefits for the Shama which is being pursued because, again, just like your Averos don't affect you that much in this world because you're physical and those angels are spiritual, so too once that Neshama enters into the body of another person, so it doesn't get persecuted as much, or it can't be persecuted as much, by all those harmful angels and who are inflicting punishment on it. So it seizes hold of this body and suppresses the neshama of this body itself, and then it is, for a time at least, free of this persecution. However, obviously, eventually, either the Dibbuk will be exorcised, will be removed. The last person we know that actually exorcised the Dibbuk is the Chafetz Chaim. Gehinnom was there at the time, and Gehinnom used to tell over the story every Purim about how he saw the Chafetz Chaim.
Every Purim?
Every Purim, yeah.
So is it a real thing or is it a Purim?
No.
Story.
They didn't really come Purim. They just sat and told stories. That's all.
Purim stories or real stories?
No, real stories. They weren't very funny people. Should have said that for safe. What?
You know the story?
Yeah, it's in the Rebbe Chanan biography. It's in the Rebbe Chanan biography. The Dibbuk was the girl, Chafetz Chaim said, I decree that you leave her, and you should leave her in least damaging way possible, and Dibbuk had to leave.
So where they go?
What?
The
holiness of the Chafetz Chaim.
What?
The holiness of the Chafetz Chaim.
Where do they go?
What?
Where they go?
Where they go? They go back to being pursued.
Chafetz Kala, and then back to Dibbuk, and then back to Chafetz Kala. So where they
The card becomes Dibbuk. It's not easy.
So right, they have to find the soul.
You have to find no. So what other things which can stop this process is they can become Gilgulim in animals, in minerals, but not kosher animals. In non-kosher animals,
because they could get eaten and get uplifted.
what?
If they
Right.
came back.
That's why they don't go to kosher animals.
What do briskers have to say about all this?
They don't know if it's true or not true, but they just couldn't care less.
They just say forget about it.
Yeah, who cares?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the
What's the point of exorcism?
exorcism to get rid of the Dibbuk.
Why was it like effective or something?
Yeah, sure. The person's own neshama can't function properly.
Should priests really do it, or is it fake?
I don't know. Maybe you don't know. It's the two ways probably you can exercise the Dibbuk. This is my hunch. Actually, I somebody told this to me. I forget who. That if a person's holy enough, so he can get rid of the Dibbuk, right? And if there's so much tumah in the room, the Dibbuk would prefer to leave than to remain there. So that's how a priest could also get rid of it.
Where do we get the source
Schizophrenia
for all this?
medication?
Tell us why shopping.
Yeah?
Where do the sources come from for all this information?
From the Sefer Kabbalah.
Yeah.
Or to take schizophrenia medication.
What?
It's not suppressing the Dibbuk, right?
So it's interesting. Somebody told me today that the Chafetz Chaim, he knew when it was a Dibbuk and he knew when it was a psychosis. He knew when to send people to psychologists.
Is it always in limbo?
What?
Is it always in limbo the Dibbuk? Spirit?
No, it gradually lessens over time. So
Then
limbo,
go to Shemayim?
so then it's Gehinnom first.
Yeah,
Okay?
okay,
But when you say Kaddish, it could go from a limbo to Gehinnom, right?
It can. It gives the neshama zchus.
So limbo to Gehinnom to Gan Eden?
Yeah. It can even, if it's neshama in Gehinnom, it also gives it a zchus. When a person says Kaddish for a neshama, that gives it a certain zchus and help lift it somewhat, because it's saying Kaddish for it. Okay, now, number 12, is the tzaddik can communicate with these neshamas and uplift them. It says a raven once came to the Arizal's window and started talking to the Ari. Raven is non-kosher bird. So it said, who are you? So the raven said, I was the first person to throw a stone at the prophet Zechariah when he was killed in the temple during the first Beis HaMikdash period. So since then, this is the year 1500 something, first Beis HaMikdash was destroyed in the year 400 something, 1900 years he's been flying around as a raven. I don't know, whatever else he was doing in the same at that time. So he asked Arizal to give him a tikkun that he should be able to go to hell. to get out of this pattern, and the result was fixed him. You think this will go to hell is a curse, right?
Regional center of hell.
It sounds like you're sharing hands in the room.
This is like, I mean, you don't know, when you color a snake, you don't know, this is like the bottom part of the iceberg, you know, they don't tell you that. Not the ravens to go to hell, this is like.
There's another case where somebody came, a Gilgul came to him, I forget what form it took, maybe a cat, I forget what it was, and had been the tax collector in Tzfat in recent times. He had just died recently, and the Arizal said, I am not being misaking you. And that was that. The cat left. There's a story about the Baal Shem Tov. Baal Shem Tov used to say, if I recall the story correctly, I couldn't find it when I looked at it a couple of days ago, Erev Shabbos, by Mincha, every week he would say a certain shame, and Neshamos would come to him while he was davening and ask him to uplift them, to get them out of this state of limbo. And he once gave his name to one of this shame, this name of God, to one of the students to recite before he said Shemona Esrei, and when the student started reciting it, Shemona Esrei, he fainted dead away because of all the things which he saw, which otherwise he wouldn't have seen. So the neshamas do function in a way in which they, neshamas can contact the tzaddik. A tzaddik can contact these neshamas, and he can uplift them. He can learn mishnayos for them. Chaim promised to learn mishnayos for these people. He can learn mishnayos, he can say kaddish, he can do all. He can daven for them, and that becomes a chutz for that neshama. And neshama is uplifted. Yeah.
If you do something for a neshama, you say kaddish for a certain neshama, right? Why can't this neshama in the world pay back a living person? For example, come to him in a dream and tell him secret information or whatever. If I do something for you, let's say I lend money.
Then I'll say, forget it. You have to do it selflessly. Otherwise, there's no merit. If you're doing it because you want to expect a return, then what good is that?
But everything in this world is like you said is up there. If I do you, if I
your reward is that neshama shamayim goes up.
So what's your reward?
Nothing. You're not looking for a reward.
Oh yeah. We want a reward. If you don't want a reward, then we're gonna go.
Your reward is knowing that this neshama is getting uplifted. You're not happy with that.
I have a selfish propaganda attitude.
I guess. Okay. Now, neshamas of tzaddikim also can become Gilgulim, and this is when they have to achieve some sort of minor tikkun. Now, with this we mean that we said before that a person has to actualize, it's a better word than realize, has to actualize all of their potential, right? In a positive way, a negative way, everybody is going to actualize all their potential. But what if I didn't? If there's something which I didn't fix, which I was supposed to fix, some things I left, so to speak, loose ends. So then, if it's a minor thing and the person is mostly righteous, he might come back briefly in some way as a gilgul, meaning he could be a kosher animal or a fish. Remember the fish in the square, right? A talking fish, or on a tree, and they'll be uplifted by being shechted and eaten on Shabbos, being eaten by a tzaddik, being by somebody saying the blessing on the tree, on this tree, Birkas Ilonos. So there are ways in which that tzaddik completes a minor tikkun, which he was lacking in this way. Yeah.
What's this about fish in the square?
The fish in the square.
5 years ago, talking fish in the square, made NPR and everything.
Yeah.
National news. What? The fish that talks
You guys don't know this.
3 seconds.
You're much. You don't know about the new square fish.
It was like 4 years ago. 5 years ago.
I can't believe this.
I came here,
SML skit and they had it, they were doing a thing on the it was like 5 or 6 years ago.
It was less than 5.
So, it happened once. It happened once upon a time. I think year 2002, 2003. So the
Wait, there was a fish that spoke? What was it?
New Square.
He said a shear.
Where is it?
New Square is
5 miles from here. 5 miles from here.
Hasidic village, about 2.5
How
miles.
many people were there?
Just 2.
two people saw the fish talk.
What happened was, if you believe the story, I'm not vouching for the story. Okay? Here's the story. There was a fish market in the square. There was a non-Jewish worker, and he was, killing fish for Shabbos. And one fish came up and started talking, and he was really spooked. Anybody would be. And he ran and got the owner. And the owner came back, and he said that he heard the fish say, "Hasof ba tzarich tikun," or "tzarich tikun hasof ba," which means I need fixing. The end has come, or the end has come. I need fixing.
Was the Jewish
Spanish
guy
What?
just on drugs?
Was he the fish of the Rebbe or what?
What? I guess I don't remember what they did with the fish.
So just the non-Jew and the Jew.
But this, it made NPR. I remember on the radio, and
It was on national. I mean, minor national. It was on NPR.
I think it's just that the
Like
guy
a national
was
show.
on drugs.
But two people don't like, they like one person is crazy, if two people.
do a Google search on Talking Fish New Square.
All the fish talking in the show. They'll like half they're all lying there on the ice on dirt.
Yeah, but they're not as articulate as the fish in New Square.
You could be delusional and come up with any kind of fact from that, fine.
Who's the owner of the fish store?
Some square across it. I don't know.
Is it fish out of the water or in the water?
What?
I
don't know.
They're alive for quite some time.
So who ended up eating it?
What?
You get time.
Is it true?
I remember that. I don't remember the end of the story.
Is it true? I heard from someone that said, I have two quick questions. I heard from someone that said that the Torah says that everyone goes to Gan Eden, everyone has a Gemara, and one person's giving share, and for some people it's Gehinnom, and some people it's Gan Eden.
Obviously can't be true.
However,
Obviously can't be true because women are not required to learn Gemara. So what do they do?
they enjoy it too. I don't know.
Yeah. It's a simplification.
You said it once in the sheet.
No, I said a different story about the long spoons.
Also,
You know the long spoon story,
Yeah.
right?
could it? No. Could it?
I don't think it's a Jewish source, but a Jewish source.
Yeah. Also when during the Shabbos, you also said that there's one tzaddik and he went to Maba and it was a little name, and he said, and it was just a Gemara, and he said, this is what I call Maba, and the Russia went there and said, this is all Maba, this is just a small tiny room.
I remember that
30
story.
small tiny rooms.
Correct. The story of the long spoon is like this: that you have that Gehinnom and Gan Eden are exactly the same, and in both places there's this sumptuous feast laid out on the table for the taking. But the thing is that they give you.
No, not the sharing. So
Let me tell it over. Don't give it away. So they give, they give you. The thing is, they give you a very long fork, which there's no way you can fit into your mouth. It's got kasha on okay. So in Gehinnom, each Russia keeps on going like this, trying to put the fork in the can to it, right? In Gan Eden, everybody puts the fork in the other guy's mouth. Okay? I don't think it's from a Jewish source. It doesn't sound Jewish. Well, it's a good story though.
If your meals are good, then you'll enjoy something.
Right, of course. No, it's good. The message is good.
Well,
Yeah.
also it could be that Gehinnom is just like, it's just either it's too boring, or it's embarrassment. It's not necessarily fire and whatever. It's just,
Spiritual fire.
Yeah, it could be a spiritual fire. It could be a lot of
Yeah.
different ideas. It could be that they make you thought that eating was really great, so they make you eat like 500 burgers.
It's like your dad when they find you smoking.
Exactly. Smoke one right now.
Here, eat the cheeseburger. I'll show the cheeseburger.
Okay, but I think we're going to have to leave points 14 through 20 for, maybe we'll do Wednesday night. It'll be
That's 8:30 on Monday?
7:30.
7:30, but 7:30, 8:30 on Monday.
7:30 and Wednesday also. I may rearrange my schedule. Okay?
Can you talk about the shamas that don't disappear completely? The
Wednesday.
The shamas that don't disappear?
You see, to just give you briefly, our concept of a soul is that it's a specific individual, one soul per person. It doesn't work that way necessarily. Most of us, assuming that we're all Gilgulim, which we didn't talk about yet, assuming we're all real Gilgulim, so each one of us is a fragment of a soul, not a full soul. That also explains the moron factor, to a large extent.
So why don't we think about like...
When souls were souls, that was when souls were souls. And now we're just fragments of souls. Okay? So certain fragments can be lost.
Where's the other fragment?
It was alive before.
Where is it now? Cut off.
In Olam Haba and Gehinnom.
So what's gonna be by Chif Mason?
What? They all come back. Once the soul is fragmented, it's fragmented.
It comes back.
Every part of it comes back.
Different bodies.
Yeah.
But so how does it work with like Hashem is like is there a difference with Shidduchim today than like is there a difference
Not the
40
article.
days also before there's a Vlad there's also Hashem calls out.
Yeah, why should that be different?
So there's no difference today and because there's
Maybe you're predetermined who you're going to get because of a previous Gilgul, but still there'll be an announcement.
When are we speaking about?
I just see, you know what I see? I see that
Wednesday.
kids are like singing.
Wednesday or Monday?
I think I'll do Wednesday. Continuity.
Rabbi Derek,
Yes.
if I could ask for what my tikkun is, you know?
I have to.
But he knows why. I heard he knows some very mystical things.
Yeah, but he doesn't necessarily know your soul. He knows mystical things, but he doesn't necessarily know mystical things about you.